Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming History, where we celebrate major milestones and reminisce about the games that changed the landscape of gaming and our lives. I'm Pat, and I'm here with my buddy Bowman.
I'm Cody Tharp.
You're not Cody Tharp.
I'm from Texas.
I'm here with Bowman.
Hey, everybody.
He's the co-host today for episode 2 of This Week in Gaming History. We've got a couple of good ones here today. It's the 20th anniversary of Mario Party for Nintendo 64.
Woo!
You like Mario Party?
I do a lot, but I like the first two Mario Parties.
Well,
But
this is the first Mario Party.
So it is, yes. So,
Well, and we've also got, before you start
sorry, before I start
waxing
rambling.
Reminiscent, we've also got the 15th anniversary of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, one of my favorite GameCube games. All right, so we got Mario Party, North American released February 8th, 1999. It was developed by Hudson Soft, that old B.
Mm-hmm. Miss you, B.
Director Kenji Kikuchi.
That sounds right.
Yeah, did I hit the nail on
That
the
sounds
head there?
fine.
Okay.
Didn't sound wrong.
It might have been wrong.
Kenji
yeah.
Kikuchi.
Kenji Kikuchi? Kenji Kikuchi. And it was the first installment of the long-running Mario Party
There are
franchise.
a lot of Mario Party games.
There's at least 11. There's probably a few I'm missing. Is there a Game Boy one?
There was a Game Boy Advance one.
Okay, there's that, and then there was a DS one.
There was a DS one and the new 3DS one that came out recently.
And the DS one was not considered in the numbered sequels, right?
No.
So, yeah, there's like 13, 14 Mario Parties.
An insane amount.
Classic party game. I want to say, I'm going to go on record here, maybe this was the first dedicated mini game, like party game, board game type thing.
It's hard to say because there were some titles. I guess because like what are you defining? Like, because there were like some trivia games on Nintendo,
like a board game style.
There
game
was
with
something
mini-games.
like that on Nintendo that I can't think of at the right now. There were different mini games and it was like a board style. So I wouldn't say, but it's most certainly the most well known and pioneered one that's certainly had the biggest effect in regards to gaming history. And I think, this game is what a whole lot of third-party developers really wanted to be. This is where we got such magical titles, such as on the Xbox. We got Fusion Frenzy, which came out.
I love that game.
That actually was fun. I was being sarcastic, but then I said it out loud. I'm like, that was actually fun.
That's a really fun game.
Yeah.
It's like a mix between Mario Party and Power Stone.
Yeah.
Two great games. And there was Sonic Shuffle.
Oh boy, that's the
that's the real
big old
stinker.
poop right there.
It's a poopy game
Boo boo boo
on Dreamcast.
So,
tell me a little bit about your experience in Mario
I'm just
Party.
very fortunate that I grew up in this is one of the moments where being one of 5 kids was very beneficial. Like, because this was we always super enjoyed multiplayer games. So throughout my entire early childhood of gaming, those are my most fond memories. Are any game that had upwards of 2 to 4 players. So
Okay.
Mario Party was definitely on the top of that list. So we played that a whole lot. And the thing was, we all, like all my brothers and I, we kind of had different skill levels. Like, my brother was good at a fighting game. My brother was good at maybe RPG or something like that. So this was the place where it put us all on an even playing field. And yeah, it was just.
Who was the king of Mario Party?
I honestly don't even really remember. Honestly, right now.
So I guess it wasn't you then.
I'm trying to tell you, I got incredibly good at Mario Party 2. Mario Party 1. Well, let's talk about Mario Party 1 first. I think it was just Mario Party 1. It's got some good mini games to it, but when it comes to the actual board itself, It wasn't perfected until part 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so the original game, I still remember us opening up and playing it. And yeah, I mean, like the basketball mini game. There was just such a huge array of just really fun, like goofy mini games, and them lasting a few seconds, and then just
had the classic controversy with the rotating stick.
Mario Party 2 is what caused that one.
No, it was Mario Party 1.
Are you sure it was
Mario
Party
Party
1?
2 had less of those games because of this. Yeah? Are you familiar with the
I'm familiar with what you're
lawsuit?
talking about. Yeah, there was a class action lawsuit. Pat's talking about where a lot of these games had requirement that you basically whoever could just rotate the stick, that terrible
plastic N64
plastic N64 stick around the fastest. And what a lot of people did, I never really did this, but my brothers would do it. Where they would take their palm and just roll the stick on their palm and rotate it around. And yes, I would watch and see.
It would fuck up your palm.
It would mess up your palm really badly. So I wouldn't do it, but they would. So I guess to answer your questions about Mario Party, they probably were better than me since
because you refused to tear up your hand.
Tear up my hands.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this or not, but Nintendo, everyone who complained, Nintendo sent out gloves.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
Now, I don't know. I've tried to do some research on this, and I could not find anything. I've done it a few times. I don't know if they were, like, official Mario Party branded gloves.
Something tells me I doubt it.
If they
were, just threw out gloves to people.
If they were, then they're probably really sought after and collectible. That's why I was looking for them. But I could not find anything about it. I could find the news articles talking about it, but I could not find the actual gloves, not even a picture. So the mystery remains. If you're out there and you've seen or know where there's a picture of the Mario Party glove, go ahead and send us an email at analogoutpodcast@gmail.com.
All right. Is that an email?
Yeah.
Okay. So
is that an email?
Well, I don't know if you have that or not. So anyways.
Oh, I've got the email.
Got the email. So, yeah, there are a whole lot of fond memories of this game, and there are a whole lot of just your classic raging moments, because the beautiful part about the first 2 Mario parties was that there were moments where you would, like Mario Party 2, they had moments where you could land on a space, and then it would be a mystery block, and then you would just get a star. And stars had a whole lot of weight to them in the early first couple Mario parties. You didn't get them that often. That's probably my biggest complaint about the later on series, where they just got really carried away with like how many like things you could collect, and like things didn't have as much weight anymore.
The new one stars are pretty rare.
They know that. I mean, they went back to the roots
Super
a little bit.
Mario
with the new
Party.
Super
Yeah,
Mario
I like that
Party.
one a lot.
It is good. So there were a lot of rage moments like that, especially at the ending where you have the reward stars, where they go, okay, whoever landed on the most event time spaces gets a star.
And it was randomized. They had different scenarios, and it would randomize every game.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is I can't think of a more game that I hold more have more fond memories of in regards to multiplayer. It really is like one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. And I think when you think of N64, I think most people are almost always going to and one of the first thoughts that comes in their head is usually the multiplayer, because that's the N64 was so good at.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was the first console ever that included 4 controller ports.
Yeah,
and that really is what pushed the N64. If the N64 did not have the 4 controller ports,
it would have been trash.
It would have flopped even harder than it did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a huge flop, but like it was a far second place behind PS1.
Yeah.
If it didn't have those 4 controller ports, fuck it. It's done.
Yeah.
Because you look back at every major game for the N64, GoldenEye, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Mario Party, always it comes back to, you don't hear anyone reminiscing often about a game that didn't have 4-player multiplayer, and that's for a reason. Because N64, the one thing it had going for it was the 4-player multiplayer. Yeah,
because, I mean, as much as we owned all these consoles back then, we never really... TurboGrafx 16 is the only one that we really took advantage of, like, the multi-tap. But
we had to.
Yeah, exactly, because it only had one port.
Yeah.
So you had to get a multi-tap. But most of the systems, we didn't have like a like for PlayStation, I didn't get the multi-tap for that. Super Nintendo, I didn't have a multi-tap for that.
I've got it complete in box.
I know. But back then, yeah, like if these systems didn't already have it, there was no way that you were going to tell your parents to waste the money for an expensive accessory.
Right, exactly.
Hey, mom, I need a splitter, and I need some more controllers.
Yeah.
And I need this new game that's 4 players. Like, I think people underestimate the value of having those ports like that. So.
Well, it made it normal. Here's the thing: it normalized 4-player gaming.
Yeah.
If you didn't have those 4 ports, you wouldn't have had all the 4-player games you had.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and that's the problem with these systems that only had 2 controller ports is they had the multi-tap, but because it required the multi-tap, only a handful of games even bothered putting in the
Right. The developers wouldn't even bother supporting it.
Right.
Or if you can be like Final Fight for Super Nintendo and just not support it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Now let's move down the line of Mario Party where it went. Personally, I mean, this is kind of even as a series got bad, because it did. I'm sorry. I will stand by that. After Mario Party 2, Mario Party 3 came out, and that one was the start of the downfall for me.
Was that N64?
Yeah, Mario Party 3 was N64, and it wasn't terrible.
What was how many have you played?
Probably like 5 or 6, maybe.
Okay. What was the bottom of the barrel?
I mean, it's hard to say because the GameCube one just kind of all blurred together to me. Like maybe Mario Party.
There was
8
like a Wii one
that was
supposed to be really bad. It got like like 5s out of 10s.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I'm thinking of the Bowser one, 10, I think it was, or maybe another one.
I think you are thinking of that one.
There were some bad ones for sure.
There were, and personally, I never explored I wish I did, but the problem was, like when the Game Boy Advance one came out, I really wanted to play it, but when the Game Boy Advance one came out, this is when we were starting to see single cart play be like a big thing, and I had Mario Kart, which I'm a huge fan of for a Game Boy Advance, and that had single cart play. So when all these games are coming out, whenever they announced they were having multiplayer features, I would always go, okay, single cart, and Mario Party Advance did not have single cart play.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason I didn't play those. So, I mean, I really, if anything, the memories I wish I did try out these portable ones. It's just that at the same time, though, I didn't try them out because I just never saw the value in them and how they would actually realistically work. Because the value in them is sitting down on the couch with your friends.
Right.
And yelling at each other.
I think if they really wanted the Game Boy Advance one to stand out, they should have basically used the exact same technology that they used in WarioWare Twisted.
Yeah, where you could
where you move it as a gyroscope and things like that.
Yeah.
That would be a good fit for Mario Party.
Add some new element into it
Yeah.
that you're not getting
Right.
rather than a crappy version of Mario Party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not going to do the single cart play.
Yeah.
If you're going to make everyone have their own cart, give it a reason to have the cart.
I wonder if we would have got WarioWare for the GameCube if Mario Party never happened.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. You ever play any of the Dokapon Kingdom games?
No, I have no idea. What is
They're
that?
like a board game type game. It's similar to Mario Party.
No, I never played this. Is that like a Japanese only thing or?
No, they're here.
Oh, okay.
It's actually one of the rarest Wii games. Like GameStop sells it for like $50. So,
Oh boy.
and it's worth a lot more than that.
Huh. Did you play as a kid?
No, our friends, Austin and his ex-girlfriend and Asian Mike used to play it at their apartment.
Okay.
So, good stuff. It's one of those games that lasts like all day.
So what is your history of Mario Party? Did you have it as a kid?
I didn't have it as a kid. I didn't have an
places,
N64 until later on in the life cycle, but I had a friend who had N64 that, and you know how, friends were back in like middle school and stuff. You go over there like every day.
Right.
So, I was basically like I had an N64. I was going over to this guy's house every day, and he had an N64. That's where I played Smash Brothers. That's where I played GoldenEye, and that's where I would play Mario Party. And we played a lot of Mario Party, but I was always lost because I didn't own the game, so I didn't know all the mini games and stuff. But my history with Mario Party is I played it with them, Mario Party 1 and 2 a bit on N64, and then I was pretty much absent from the series. I played it a little bit at your apartment. a few times.
Yeah.
On Virtual Console, I think, and then, or maybe you had the real game. I don't know. And then I bought Super Mario Party, and I've played that quite a bit. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the Switch one actually is surprisingly. It's not everything I wanted it to be, but it's actually it does make the game fun again because what I argue in the newer ones is just that they added so many random outside elements into it to spice things up that we just got a whole. It's like when someone says you're cooking a chili and someone says, "Oh, you should add a little bit of this," and then you listen to too many people and the chili tastes like shit.
Yeah,
that's what happened to Mario Party, and I think Super Mario Party, we finally got to at least simplify things a bit more.
Yeah,
would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I was interested in it because from what I had heard, it seemed like they made the stars harder to get, and the random elements were not quite as egregious.
We need the random elements. It makes it fun,
right?
Because it equals the level, the playing field. But
it's like you've said to me before. If you're beating the shit out of everyone the entire time, you'll still win.
Yeah,
like you're not just gonna get fucked totally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh well, sorry, you won every mini game, but you still lose. It's not like that. That's how the older ones were.
Yeah.
And Super Mario Party has improved that. So, it's a long running storied franchise. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think it's real easy and cheap for them to make those games. I think they're going to keep making those games, and I hope that they do more like Super Mario Party and less like the GameCube games.
That would be nice.
All right, so our other game here, it's the 15th anniversary of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday, Crystal Chronicles. Let's see, it's February 9th, 2004. It was directed by Kazuhiko Aoki. It was developed by the Game Designer Studio, which was a shell company of Square Enix. Now, little backstory. The reason why they created a shell company for this game is because Hiroshi Yamauchi, the president of Nintendo at the time, he actually created a fund for first-time game developers for the GameCube and Game Boy. So if you were a first-time developer, they would give you money to learn how to develop on the GameCube.
Huh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so Square Enix created a shell company called the Game Designer Studio. It was famously 4 players, and it required the Game Boy Advance link cables and 4 Game Boy Advances to play with 4 players.
I remember that's why we didn't have it as kids.
Right. Well, that surprises me, honestly, that's what kept you back, because your family had everything under the sun.
Yeah.
To the point where you're just giving away free Turbo Expresses.
Shut up.
So
I don't know why you want to rub that in my face.
So it was a team up between Square Enix and Nintendo, because Square Enix had just suffered a huge financial failure in the form of Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Makes sense.
So that, famously, for anyone who doesn't know, is the CGI Final Fantasy movie.
I remember it quite well.
I went and saw it in theaters.
I actually liked it as a kid, but I was a kid.
It was a snooze fest.
I enjoyed it.
The only thing that was even remotely interesting was that the CGI back then was like, it's almost real.
It was pretty advanced back then.
They even gave the girl like a freckle on her lip.
Yeah.
It was so real.
So real.
Okay, so I am 15 years old when this game comes out. I'm not an adult yet, but I don't have adult responsibility. So I'm at the point in my life now where you can get away with being out all night and stuff on the weekends, and nobody questions it. Nobody's going to make you go to sleep at, midnight or whatever. And nobody's keeping tabs on you as long as your parents know where you're at. So I get this game, and at this point I've got to decent group of friends from high school and stuff, and man, we managed to get between us, because there's a bunch of us, and at this point the Game Boy's been out for 3 years now, so we've got all the Game Boys and stuff. We go out buy the cables, and man, me and my friends we tore into this game. We stayed up all night long, multiple weekends, playing this game. I really liked it. I'm not a big Final Fantasy fan, because I'm not a huge turn-based RPG fan. And honestly, with the exception of a few of them, most Final Fantasies, in my opinion, have extremely poor RPG combat. Many of them are just simple turn-based RPGs. There's nothing particularly special about them. And that always bored me as a kid. But this game was more like an action RPG. And actually, I would say the closest thing I could compare it to is almost like Pikmin. You have a reticule on the screen that moves, and you are, in that reticule is where you're sending your spells and things like that. So the reason why you needed 4 Game Boy Advances for this game is because it is still an RPG. So you have your own character, you have your own stats, and you have your own spells. And the way that the Game Boy Advance interfaces with it is, in order to get around the menu items, your menu was on the Game Boy Advance. So you had 4 people running around in the game world, and if you wanted to cast a spell or whatever, you would pull it up in your Game Boy and do it like that. One of the things that was really unique that I liked was you could coordinate, and basically, since everyone had their reticule, you could mix and match spells to create other spells.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so the reticule, what you would do is, let's say that if we were fighting a big enemy, you want to cast Fire-Aga instead of fire. Everyone has fire, and you move the reticule on top of the enemy, and everyone puts their reticule in the same spot, and that would create a stronger spell. You would have your base spells, and then if you wanted to do like weirder ones, like that would poison or whatever, you would mix and match them. So mixing spells would create different non-traditional spells. It was also famous for having the miasma mechanic, where one of the characters has to carry around like a bucket.
Yeah.
And that there's like poison in the air, and that bucket that you carry around with the crystal in it creates like a force field that allows you to move around in. When you get into fights and stuff, the person can like put it down and then fight with everybody. So yeah, my experience with this game is that I played it a lot in high school, and it was such a cool co-op game, and it was really unique because there wasn't anything else like it at the time that had this kind of like an action RPG that was local couch co-op. That was what was cool about it, was you get together with all your friends and play an RPG, and everyone has their own character and stuff, their own class and everything, but you're playing it together on the same screen. And that was really novel. That's what I enjoyed about it the most. And also, the Game Boy thing was just whatever. I'm sure everyone's seen that meme back in the day. I forget. I think it was called what was that publication? The comics publication. It was like a coin something or another.
Penny Arcade.
Penny Arcade. They did a famous comic that like went viral, where it was like, in order to be a gamer and play Final Fantasy, it's like, because everyone was like, so I need a GameCube that's $200, and I need 4 Game Boy Advances for $100 each, and then I need the game and all these cables. So in order to play this game, I have to spend $700. And then they like, I want to say it was Penny Arcade did a comic that was like, you have to buy the TV.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And the game console and the couch to sit on and the house to put it in. The cost of being a console gamer, $300,000. But yeah, so it was famous. It was famous for having the limitation on the Game Boy. But even with that limitation, it sold over 1 million copies and made it to the bestseller or the greatest hits, which is interesting. So, has a unique art style, that's for sure. And there were several sequels, some WiiWare sequels, and there was a sequel on the Wii. I have not played that one. I would like to pick it up if I see it and give it a try. And
But none of them ever had that same kind of interaction. That the
no, I
original
don't think
had.
so. Yeah. And then we've got a port coming out.
We do for both Switch and PS4.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
There's a port coming out for Switch and PS4.
Cool. It's coming out this year. Are you excited for it? You got to pick that up?
Yeah, I mean, since I never got to play it, but I mean, I do feel like I missed out on that
Yeah.
Game Boy Advance connectivity because I have experienced that before. I mean, Pac-Man Versus is probably the best example of that.
Yeah, but that only required one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had the Game Boy Advance link cables and stuff, but I never really owned any game that did it to that level. Because the only one other one I can think of that did it to that level was Four Swords.
Yeah. Very
So-
similar to Four Swords, the way it
yeah.
worked.
Which I remember when the Game Boy Advance and connectivity with Gamecube was like first announced, like really, and they discussed it like in magazines. I would see concept art, and they're like, "Yeah, like, let's say you're playing a Mario game, and like you go down a tube, and then you'll go down the tube, and then you'll be in your Game Boy Advance screen." And it sounds stupid saying out loud right now,
Yeah, it
but
doesn't
like,
make any sense.
but like, why? But like in reality, though, I think this is the first time we really, not the first time, but hence,
second screen experience.
exactly, a second screen experience, and the Nintendo DS is my number one console handheld of all time.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we finally saw hints of that coming out, and I really wish that I think it was because of the high price point to do this was why these games did not continue to get developed. But like as you said, though, I am surprised about how successful it was.
Yeah, it did pretty well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think developers were just scared of making something like
Yeah.
this. It was a very ambitious project.
Yeah.
So I wish we saw
And
more projects like that.
Well,
back then.
and I can say the ambition paid off because those nights of me and my group of friends all hanging out playing and just the hours fly by, the next thing we know it's morning. I've never, it's one of my fondest gaming memories is playing this game. And it's not a particularly great game. It's not like, the game was just, it's not like Breath of the Wild or anything. The fact of the matter is, it was the experience that it created. That's what made it unique.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever really experienced that again. I'm really excited for the port. I'm hoping that, at least 3 of my friends get it and we can play.
Because it'll
for
have
it.
online connectivity.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that at least a handful of my friends are willing to get it, and then
I'll get it.
we can play together online because it's a really, really fun game. It's a really cool experience, and there's nothing quite like I don't think you've ever experienced anything like playing an action RPG multiplayer where you're relying on your teammates.
I mean, Fantasy Star Online is what I can think of.
Yeah, it's similar, but Fantasy Star Online is kind of like an MMO where there's not a whole lot of skill involved. You're just kind of like hacking and slashing or shooting, and it's just a lot of like stats based, and then it's just
True.
like, oh, I'm hurt. Hey,
True.
heal me.
Yeah.
This is an action RPG where you're running around in the world and stuff, and it takes a lot of, hey, you over there, like, we need this spell thrown over here, and you're, coordinating
Yeah.
attacks and stuff. And it's a unique experience for sure. So I'm excited. Got anything else to say about Crystal Chronicles?
I can't wait to play when the port comes out.
All right. All right, that wraps it up. So if you made it this far, thank you for listening. You can check us out on analogoutmedia.com. That's where we post all of our podcasts and our video content. And give us a 5-star review on Google and iTunes. iTunes? iTunes. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes and Google, and send us an email, analogoutpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. And On that note, we will be seeing you next time. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.